Hi, my name is Kanishk Sinha. I'm one of the executive coaches at Stillwater, and I'm also the head of research and development over there. One of the questions we get quite often from the participants in our leadership programs is a confusion they have because they get two contradictory pieces of leadership wisdom coming their way. On the one side, they're told that they need to be themselves. Be yourself. Trust your instincts. Use your strengths. Be true to who you are. Be true to your values. Be authentic. Basically be yourself. The other piece of wisdom that they get is to transform yourself. Be more empathetic. Be more assertive. Be less analytical. And they come to me and they ask, I keep getting this feedback that I need to be like this kind of a person in order to be successful. But on the other hand, I feel like that would be inauthentic. So should I listen to the feedback or should I do what, seems to work or that I feel works for me? And so in order to address this confusion, we decided to develop a model which we call the range model of development to help people get a structure on how to think through this question. Now, according to this model, all of us have what we call a light. These are the natural strengths that come to you so easily that you don't even have to put any effort. Sometimes we're not even aware this is a strength till other people point it out, saying, hey, that looks really easy for you. That's very hard for me. So one of my strengths, one of my lights, for example, is I'm a very logical guy. My background is theoretical physics. I'm a chartered accountant. I have an MBA. So I have a very analytical bent of mind, a very logical way of approaching things, which can be a strength, which is in fact a strength most of the time, which is a light, but sometimes it can also become a weakness. And that's when we call it the burn. So to give an example of how being logical might become a weakness in certain situations, sometimes say a subordinate comes to me and says, boss, I'm really unhappy. I got a 3 out of 5 rating in my annual appraisal. I think it should have been a 5. I don't think this is fair. And I respond logically to this. I don't hear the emotion underneath this communication, which is disappointment, which is frustration, which is, low motivation level. I don't hear any of that emotion. I just respond logically saying, look, the data is objective. There's been no bias. There's the same process for everybody. So I respond in a very logical way. But instead, and so because I'm only responding logically and not to the emotion, this can become a little clinical, which is the burn, right? What I need to do is I need to develop a certain amount of empathy, listening to the emotional parts of the communication, which is the shade, maybe the intuitive part of the communication. So instead of just saying the logical part, which is, hey, these are the numbers and that's what the rating is, a more emotional, empathetic way of responding might be to say, hey, I'm really sorry to hear that. It sounds like you worked really hard. And I've seen you putting in a lot of effort. The numbers are the numbers. Let's sit down, buddy, and see what we can do to make sure that next year for sure you get your promotion or bonus because, you put in a lot of effort. I don't want to see this happen again. Now, after that, the communication might be just as logical, but just that one drop of honey in this communication could make them feel like I'm on their team and it becomes far more effective. But the reason why it's so hard for me to develop my shade, my intuitive, more empathetic side, is because I'm afraid that if I do, I'll go too far and I'll become this emotional, irrational, illogical person who's easily manipulated by other people's emotions. I feel guilty all the time because I'm not helping this guy. That is what I'm afraid will happen. I'll go into my shadow, so I don't develop my shade. I keep trying to stay in my light, but because of that, sometimes I go into my burn, which is an ineffective. I become critical. Now, to give you an example of this, one of my lights might be, I think I'm smart, I have all the answers, but then I might come across as arrogant. That's my burn. I might try to show people that I'm smarter than them. So I need to develop my shade, which is respecting others' intelligence, listen to their points of view. But I'm afraid that if I ask everybody, okay, what do you think? What do you think? They might think, well, why is he asking? He clearly doesn't know the answer. So they might think I'm stupid. That's my shadow. I don't want that to happen. So I stay away from listening to other people, tell them this is what I think, but I come across as arrogant. So there are many different ranges. We've just been looking at one, logical. I can become clinical. I need to develop my intuitive side, but I'm afraid I'll become emotional. But there are many different ranges, and all of these are applicable to everybody to greater or lesser extents. Some may scream out to you saying, hey, that really fits for me. But all of them are relevant to everybody to greater or lesser extent. They can be flipped around. So for example, somebody whose strength is they're sensible, but sometimes they become too risk averse and they become tentative. They need to trust themselves, trust their instincts, take risks if they want to be a great leader, a great entrepreneur, but they're afraid if they do, they're going to become reckless. Some people, it'll be the other way around. So their strength is actually that they are great at taking risks. They're adventurous. They trust themselves. This is actually their light. So that it's yellow for them, and the red is actually reckless. So for many people, it's flipped around. You can pause this video and have a look at some of these ranges and see which ones fit for you. Some of you would have done the range questionnaire, so you'll actually have an output that you can refer to, and we have a separate video telling you about how to read those outputs reports. But otherwise, you can just look at this and try and figure it out for yourself and just understand the theory. So let's look at another example. So somebody who's, for example, say considerate, that's their light, but sometimes they go too far and they come across as pushy. They want to develop the light of, the shade of assertive. We're assuming over here that this range is flipped, but they're afraid if they do, they'll come across as a jerk. So what happens is they're stuck at the moment because they have a distorting belief that if they say no to somebody, if they push back, people are going to think they're a jerk. So they get, they're friendly, they're cooperative, that's their light. But somebody asks them for money and they don't pay them back. And I feel like the pressure to say yes because I want to be a nice guy. So then I get taken advantage of. That's my burn. I need to develop the shade of saying no, but I'm afraid if I say no, people are going to think that I'm a jerk, right? And I can't even tell the difference between the shade and the shadow. Everybody else will be saying, no, it's okay to say no, of course, you should say no. But when I do say no, it's hard for me because I'm not used to, because my distorting belief tells me if you say no, you're a jerk. So once I realize that it's just a belief, it can allow me to experiment. And sometimes what's going to happen is, because I can't even tell the difference between the range, the shade and the shadow, I will go too far sometimes. Sometimes I'm going to be a bit of a jerk saying no because I can't tell the difference. But as I experiment, slowly, I'll find the right balance. And you see, the average behavior is not going to change. If this is my center of gravity, the dot, it's not going to change that much. People are still going to see me as a cooperative, collaborative, friendly guy. The difference is not that my average behavior has changed so much, but the range of behaviors accessible to me under pressure has changed. So now, if somebody puts pressure and starts making me feeling guilty, saying, no, please give this, I really need it, I'll just say yes. Whereas over here, I'll say no when I need to. Now, we're going to show you some more videos to really explain some of the questions you may have about this model. So there'll be a video too. For now, let me just say, only those who risk going too far will know how far they can go. See, everybody knows, most people know the shade they need to develop. They get a lot of feedback. They know this at some level, but they're afraid of going into the shadow. So a lot of people know their lights, their strengths. They know the shade they need to develop. What they don't realize is, in order to go from here, right, to a place which is effective, they need to be willing to go through the shadow. You don't get from here to here without going through the shadow region. And so you need to be willing to go through your discomfort, doing things that are difficult, not changing your personality, but being willing to do what is hard for you when you need to do it. And so we'll have a second video to talk in more detail about some of those questions.